Welcome back to the Koori Knockout Podcast. We've got a special guest today, Dennis Moran, Narwan legend, joins us on the couch today. We've got Dean Witters and Trent Rose here as well. We've had a little break from the Knockout Podcast. It's good to be back in the swing of it. There's a little bit that's been happening over the last few weeks. Leading into the Knockout, there's been an announcement that the next delegates meeting will take place on the 17th of August up in Newcastle. Jump online, check all of that out. It's on the Instagram, Facebook. You can get the latest information there. And I hope to see all the teams that are being represented there turn up. So if you want to have your say, there's plenty going on leading into the Knockout. There's plenty of talk going on already. So get your opportunity, represent your team and get up there and have a yarn. Reach out to Jeff Simpson if you need any more info. But, yeah, back to the real reason why we're here. We got the great Dennis Moran, the man who, if you don't know Knockout footy, this is a fella that everybody talks about. Whenever they talk about, who's some of the great Knockout players, Dennis Moran. Even Lukey asked us, is this the Dennis, the one that everyone talks about? Dennis, welcome.
Thanks, Georgie. Good to be here, brother. I've been waiting for it to come along and have a yarn with you.
We've been trying to track you down for a while. We haven't been able to get hold of you.
Busy man, brother, busy man, you know. Got kids and work and just too busy at the moment.
It takes up the time, mate. Tell us a little bit about your story. Tell us, for anyone who, for whatever reason, doesn't know who you are, what you're doing.
He'll tell the story and then I'll tell the truth of what the real story is.
That's what I'm looking forward to.
I can't wait to listen to this.
What do you mean, tell the story? Which story? The lifelong story of a footballer or the
on the field stuff? Then we'll start there and then we'll get to the off the field stuff later, eh?
Yeah, no, we're much off the field though.
No, there's not much. There's not much to tell. There's not much to tell. We've always been pretty innocent, me and you.
That's right.
Pretty focused sort of footballers, very professional.
We were home every night. Yes. Every night of the Knockout.
Never went out.
We had one rule: no drinking. There's no going out. You got to focus on that weekend.
Even as young men, our nan used to always, talk about us and compliment us on our behaviour and the way we were as young people. But I suppose for me, it's like me and Dan are like brothers. We grew up together, and our nan anointed me as the favourite grandson at a young age, and he was always the one battling for that recognition from my nan. But she was a big important part, and our Uncle Bim. And as we sit here today, I suppose doing a podcast, I know that we'll recognise those two as very important people in our lives and all of our family back home.
Yeah, no, the grandparents was our number ones, and I remember, when I did make my first grade debut there, we actually played Walgett at Ensign Park, and
what year was that?
What was that? 92 or 93?
1992.
I think one of them. And then I remember I run out and me old fella sang out, Jerry sang out, he goes, no, the grandmother sang out, Lorna, Mum, she goes, what are you doing? Dennis, come here, what are you doing? So I run over there and I said, they asked me to play. And they said, who? What? No one short. I said, yeah, they asked me to play. Billy Oy asked me to play. And she went, look, go on then. And then he turned around and he said, they sending a boy out to do a man's job.
He was only 15 years of age.
Unbelievable.
And he wasn't a big kid, you know what I mean? He was small out there. And he went out because I remember we were all young kids watching Narwan play at the Knockouts for years, and we all couldn't wait for our time. But for Dan, it sort of got rushed on him even younger than he thought. And then, as a 15-year-old going out there, I don't know how it must have felt for you.
Yeah, it was exciting because, we always, that was our goal, that was my goal to play with Narwan. Then I moved away for footy and that, and then had the opportunity, and I wasn't going to knock it back. That's for sure. You get to play with your uncles and everyone, and you put that jersey on. That was my number one goal, growing up as a kid.
What was that experience like? That first game?
Oh, bro, it was next level. The faith that they had in me, it just gave me cold shivers sitting there thinking about it. to have these old fellas come up and have the faith in me to go out there and, you know, do a job for them, and, you know, it's better than my first grade debut, you know, the NRL. That's how good it was for me. Yeah.
Who's some of the people you remember being in that team?
We had the likes of Billy Oy, you know, all the Oy brothers over there, and Mikey, you know, and my uncles, the older uncles. That the thing was that year though, it was actually funny because all the Morans, they went and played with Taree.
Yeah,
So
right.
my father Pritchard,
Yeah.
Uncle Clary, Decky,
All the gun players for now.
all the Morans went and played for Taree because
And I think all the
old fella-
Whittesses went and played for the Boomies, like,
Yeah.
and left Dennis stranded with.
Uncle Jake wasn't there when I made my debut. You know, they all left Narwhal, and I was there, rightio. So you know, like I had me the halfback there was Dino Quinlan.
Yeah, right.
You know, and we just went out and just played football.
But it opened the door for you to start your knockout career.
Well, that's what happened, brother. Yeah, and that's what happened, and that's how it happened.
Do you remember who you come up against in that game? Did you just win the game?
Yeah, we actually beat Walgett, the two big.
One of the very few
Dennisons.
times, I reckon.
The twins, remember the twins out there, the Dennisons, are they?
The Dennisons.
Forwards. Yeah,
Dennis-
the Dennisons.
Probably maybe Ball.
Oh, 92. We need Tommy Tuck there for that
Yeah.
game. That's
I need to
what-
get
Because I remember
Tuck.
Rick,
That's
Rick,
Tuck's era.
Rick played. Rick played as well.
Yeah.
We might have
Rick
to
was
phone
there.
a friend or something and see who was in that team.
Yeah,
Get 'em
Rick,
in
Rick
there.
was there. I remember Rick played when
Yeah.
we ran.
Was
out,
that
so-
Ensign Park? I remember.
Ensign Park? Yeah, yep.
And I remember that the next year, it was funny because Dennis, there was a group of young footballers coming through in Armidale that were all gun young players, and it sort of started Dennis's age. Another fellow called Brian Quinlan.
Yeah.
Mal McGuinness was around that age.
Oh, 100%.
And then there was like another group coming just under that. But it was sort of like Nam was going to have this next generation coming through. And Dennis played for him that year when no one was around because Narwhal had split and all the good players for Narwhal had gone everywhere. And it was sort of like he brought them all back together because the next year everyone came back to Narwhal, and that was the start of a generation that led to Narwhal winning the knockouts, you know, years later. But you could feel it, then there was something special building those young kids up there.
Yeah, because the next year we ended up drawing Newcastle when they were
They had a gun team,
yeah,
Newcastle.
and Newcastle had a good side, you know, Edwin Malcolm and all that, and
Ashley Gordon.
Ash Gordon and all that, and you know Shillo, and they had a real good side that year, and that was at Ensign Park too, and we knocked them off as well, you know, that year as well.
And it was mostly kids like up in like I look back at it now and it's freaky because we were all playing in the knockout like in the starting team for now and going up against gun sides at 16, 15 years of age.
Yeah,
like,
that's freaky.
And Dennis was so then a couple of years older than me, but he played when he was 15 and then I played when I was 15 a couple of years later. But he was our number one player as a 17-year-old, and like Brian was the other gun player in the back, so, and Brian was 17, and I was a starting hooker at 15. So we're all kids playing it, but we were knocking off the top teams. Like it was unbelievable, eh? Like as a young journey, and I haven't seen. I know Dan gets a lot of credit about people talk about he's one of the best knockout players. But I've been there right for his journey, and I know I'm biased, but I still reckon there hasn't been a better young player at the knockout. And I tell his kids this all the time. I was like, you don't know what your father was doing at the knockout as a 15, 16-year-old. I said, he was the dominant player at the knockout as a halfback, as a 15, 16-year-old. I remember 16, playing in that side against Ashley Gordon, against Wowser, against the Malcolm and Edward, who were gun footballers, and he was playing the best of the best, and he was dominant player on them. He was putting on hits on front rowers. He was Narwan's carrying the Narwan side in some ways, and like there were some good players in that Narwan side, but they were a little bit older, like my dad and that. But he was their best player at 16 years of age, carrying a side that was knocking off the guns. And I always say to people, yeah, I love that you all love him now as a player, but I played with him when he was 16, 17. I played him when he was in his 20s. I said, you should have seen the player he was then. Like, you had no idea what he would do at knockouts. Like, it was crazy.
What were you doing different back then? Like, because I reckon it's hard for country kids to be able to be at the level to mix it, with big teams like that.
Oh, I know, like, for me, like, I know my dad played a big part in, my football and how I was raised as a person and to what I put into my football. And my Uncle Bim as well, who's, was like a legend in our family,
Yeah, 100%.
We just grew up with stories about him. And me and Dennis being a little bit older than me, and Den was the most competitive person I'd ever seen as a kid. Like, he just wanted to win everything. He wanted to beat everything, and our Uncle Bim, like, he was the sort of fellow that, if you did push-ups, he'll do more. If you want to punch someone, he used to make us walk up to him and you could punch him in the guts as hard as you can. He just wanted to show you that he was that tough, you would never hurt him. And he'd do things like that to us all the time as kids. Yeah. And Dennis was the mini version of him. He just wanted to just show that you could never beat him. You won't beat him at something. Or if there was something that you did well, he could show you that he could do it longer than you, or he could put up with pain more than you could, like, and just that sort of stuff. So that's how I was raised. But we used to go to Narwhal training as kids, eh? Do you remember like out the mission?
We used to go on road runs with them and that. I remember when we were, growing up there, and Narwhal would train over the back oval on the mission, and we go over and train with them, and interact with their drills, and they would allow us to do that. That our uncles and that be telling us, get in there and have a hit up, or get in the dummy half, and you pass the ball. You go in there and talk to these fellas, make them do it. That's the difference between us growing up as kids to today's society with the kids. I don't think the older fellas get the kids involved in stuff like that anymore.
And they'd road run for kilometres.
Oh.
And they'd take me and him with them as young kids, and we'd just have to get dragged along, and we'd learn all this hard training to do. They'd stop and do push-ups and sit-ups. They were like a blackfella football team now and back in those days. And my dad was the coach, and he was just hard. Like, he would just push everyone hard. They'd run through. His favourite thing to do was they'd run out along this road, and then you'd get to there's a point where you could take the long way home for the street lights and back for the street, or you could run back through the paddock, which is dark, and the ghost stories out the mission, back to the mission. So, and he goes, I knew that if no one wanted to run the long way, it'll take ages. He goes, but if they're going to go through that park, he goes, when it's dark, he goes, they're all going to run as fast as they can because no one wants to get left behind. He goes, so they just tail it through the mission. But I just remember that as young kids, we were always around men who trained hard and pushed themselves.
Yeah, the theory that they had was we drink hard, we play hard, and we train hard, but that's back in the day, and we didn't do that, drink hard and try and play hard. We just wanted to play hard, we get it from our the uncles and all that we had there, and it was the mindset that embedded in us from as Dean was saying there with Uncle Bim. He was one tough old fella, and he was smart too. I remember we went down the beach one day, and he said, all right, I'm going to race you fellas. And he said, you got to run up to that pole there and back. And he said, if you beat me, you can get whatever you want. But if you can't beat me, you've got to do extra push-ups and that. So we all took off, and we'd run on the soft sand. He was just too smart and run on the hard sand and come back there and beat it. But that's what taught us to be smart when we go and play, And he was just, the old fella that put a lot of time and effort into us, didn't he, bud?
Taught us a lot off the field and stuff like that, and shaped our careers. And then my dad was sort of like the coach who was at the training and pushing us. And then in Armidale, like, you got the Moran family and the Witters family. Talented footballers all through it, you know what I mean? And some of the people you had around you and looking after us and protecting us as young people were some of the most, most talented footballers that they had in country football at that time.
Yeah, you know, growing up on the mission, it was the best thing ever happened to me. You know, growing up, you know, the lifestyle that we had. Look, you look back on it, you go, oh yeah, you know, maybe things could have been done better, but back then we didn't know any different, and it was the things that we had the opportunity to just go next door, go into uncle and auntie's house and eat what we want, sleep on overtime anytime we wanted to sleep there, and you know, and everyone was around you. And that's the good thing about growing up on the mission was, you know, you got the opportunity to always play football or play tip or hide and seek, do all that stuff. But then, you know, you look back on it and you go, oh, yeah, maybe we could have done things differently, you know. But, you know, it is what it is. And we learned a lot from our, you know, watching our adults and that on the mission too. So, which was, you know, something very important for us growing up too.
Now, as young fellas and as schoolboys, again, I say, look, for a country team, for country teams and country kids, it's hard to compete in that schoolboy sort of era. But yous were a little bit different, weren't you? Yous had some talent coming through, and yous were able to mix it with some of the bigger teams.
The Deval Koalas, eh?
The old koalas, yeah. Like I remember even when I was at O'Connor and we played against Javel and that, you know, at the time, and then I went away, but then I come back home and we had a good crop of young fellas coming through. You know, it was, you know, the likes of Gary Davison and Brian Quinlan and, you know, Dean and then Shannon Trindle and all that, and you know, Barry Lockwood, and we just had this talented pool of boys that we all agreed to, you know, stayed together. Whatever we, you know, if we went out on the weekend or went to a party, we was just all of us, you know. We had a good crew, eh, bud?
Yeah, we all grew up as brothers, and like Narwhal sort of inspired our school team because everyone had their fathers played for Narwhal. Their fathers won the comp and won the knockout, and Narwhal in Armidale when we was kids growing up was, you wanted to be a Narwhal player before an NRL player. Like you looked up to the Narwhal players as your heroes, and we just couldn't wait to play for Narwhal. We had this hunger and desire to play for Narwhal, and we got to play for Deval because Narwhal didn't have junior teams and that, so we played for Deval at school, and it was all black fellas, and like there would have been like players, 6 or 7 players that played for New South Wales junior rep teams in our teams, you know, like it was just crazy the amount of talent that we had in the sides. And we went up, we made the final of the University Shield. We made like the quarterfinals of the Commonwealth Bank Cup and come up against big schools. We got beat by Kevin McGuinness and John Scandalis and Ronnie Jones.
Redfern, was it?
Sarah Redfern, Ronnie Jones and that. So, and that was amazing, like to go and play at Cogra Oval in the final and play against the biggest kids we'd ever, like we never played someone big as John Scandalis going up against him, and then Ronnie and Kevin, and how good Buddha was, at that age.
You know, I think we were leading at half time.
Yeah, we had them, but we just didn't have the fitness and the strength that they had.
We just didn't have the fitness in us. You know, it was they were just too fit in the end. But the boys did really well though. And Warren Kelly, little beefy second row, little chip and chasing, and
they're good. And Gary Davison and Brian Quinlan, probably the two that stand out for me as young fellas that we grew up with, like two of the most talented young footballers that you play with. And Davo was a fullback who never missed a goal, no matter what. And he won knockouts for Narwhal by kicking goals from the sideline, like just unbelievable. And that was who we grew up with. But I think like the other thing too, as young fellas growing up, them Narwhal players, like there's, you know, Uncle Deck Moran, like the Armidale people still talk about that there hasn't been a more talented player than him. And my dad talks about him all the time, as saying, you know, he's the most skillful, fast, strong, everything. Dad said he used to just pick you up and throw you over the sideline and laugh as he's doing it when you'd play against him. And he goes, and he was young. He was like the 15, 16-year-old playing in the Narwhal team, winning knockouts as a young kid. And it's something that we all grew up. Old Clash Moran, like, and like he's passed away now, but as a young fella, like I think I learnt more from football from him than anyone. You know, one of the smartest footballers I've ever seen. Like, and playing alongside him as a halfback, then he's just a maestro.
Oh, Yeah, he knew to play what the opposition were doing before they did. That's how the mind read of him. It was that clever, eh?
Just a smart, really smart football. And we grew up with these fellas as our heroes. And lucky for us, like Uncle Gardo was another one who as a front rower, he's got a reputation up there for just being that tough, competitive, fierce sort of player. And when you played in sides with him, and this is who we came in playing under, my dad and Uncle Gardo and Uncle Deck and old Clash. They just looked after us. Uncle Billy Pat, like, you just felt safe around these fellas, and they taught us how to play knockout football. You know, they even better than us.
That's right. Yeah.
Who's far out? There's some good memories there. What's the I think as a fan of the knockout and as a fan of, well, I hate Narwhal, but I'm also a fan of yours. What was it like? What's it still like for the community now to follow Narwhal? Do you think there's that same sort of vibe there?
For me personally, I don't think there is. Look, we have got very passionate supporters still up there, but as a community, I think we're a little bit separated, and and that's because of the money that comes into play with players going to different clubs and that, and the boys been back in the local comp. It makes it hard for a community to come together, especially when you got other influence from different clubs that to attract the players away just to go and play for the money instead of playing for their community. But all Narwhal supporters, when they come to the knockout, they're all different. And I know I'm different when it comes to the knockout as well. But I just think we need to come back together and come back as one, because it is disheartening to see our teams, and our players, go and play for different people, eh, bud?
It's a good question. I love the question too, because I think the community is also different up there now. Like when we were kids growing up there, and like we're part of the Archibald family up there, which is massive. That was the whole mission, eh, Dan? Because everyone on that mission was all Archibalds. Everyone was related. So, and everyone lived in Armidale. Like you hardly let anyone move away back in the 80s and 90s, Your community stayed there. And then also even contacting players keeping in contact with people who weren't inside your community. You couldn't back in them days. Blackfellas didn't have social media. They couldn't afford phone calls, long distance calls. So you never really talked to anyone outside of your team and your area. So easy to keep teams together. Nowadays, even our Armidale community, like me and Dan haven't lived in Armidale for 25 years. Like we've both been out of that community. For our kids have grown up in different places. Yeah. A lot of the community all live away now, and our kids were raised off country. And that's the same for every town. Yeah. So the knockouts changed from back in the days where you knew everyone from Kempsey, you knew everyone from Taree, everyone from Moree, Armidale, Walgett, all those communities, all go. But now some of us are connected to 5 or 6 different communities, and it's just totally different. And that's been one thing I've seen, that there's still the passion up there from now and from people who live there and grew up there. But you got a lot of people from out of town living in Armidale now. You got people that sort of grew up there, live in other towns and play for their connections with other towns. So it's very challenging. And I think we were lucky like that. We got to play during a period for now and where our people from Armidale, that was Narwhal first, Daylight second. They wouldn't talk about other teams. They didn't care about other teams. They didn't want to know anything about that. They over there, the little saying up there, and they say it all the time, if it's not about Narwhal, I don't really want to know. And everyone says it. Everyone puts it as their status as it goes to the knockout. All the old fellas that are traditional, they just go, if it's not about Narwhal, I don't want to know. And that's what they say. And it's those things I think, because the passion of that community back in when we first started out, I've never had some of my most emotional moments as putting on that Narwhal jersey and playing for the Narwhal, because, like we said, that was just everyone in that town, everyone in our community, and the players in that dressing shed with me and Dan, they didn't want to be anywhere else but wearing a Narwhal. They didn't care. They want to play for Narwhal.
Yeah, at some point there, whenever we get together, right? Like it's just a different atmosphere, yeah. The boys their mindset just changes, and before the game, it's always relaxed, but then just before we run on, we have our little saying that we have that we get together, and then the boys just switch on. Like it is just a completely different feeling.
One thing with Dan, and he got this little thing where no matter what you say to him about, people will come to him and talk about other teams, and they might say, "I heard Gordon Tallis is playing for Redfern." He go, "Fuck him, he's only an ordinary player. Tell him to run the fucking ball." He'd say that about everyone. He'd say that about anyone.
I love that.
And it was just like that with everything. So that before the knockout, there's that hustle, there's a little talk and excitement about who's in the teams, where they're staying, all this sort of stuff. And people come to Dennis and say, "Oh, you should draw on Yowies, and they got 3 NRL players." And he goes, "Well, fuck them. One of them can run the fucking ball. They can't all run the ball at once." So everyone in our team over the years, and he had that from a young age. It was just he never worried about anyone else. He didn't care about it. And he'd sort of, you go to him and say, Jonathan Thurston's playing for the opposition. He goes, he's a shit player anyway. He just has that. And if he'll say he is a shit player. He just had that about him. He never gives anyone credit. He still does it to his boys today. You don't give him any credit. The team developed it. The team developed it where we don't care about no one else. We don't worry about what they got. And we just know that in this room, in this shed, you got everyone here that's ready to kill, ready to die on that field. They'll throw their bodies on the line for anything.
It was all about us.
Yeah.
And if we worried about other people, then we're not worried about what we can do. And that's the attitude that I give to my sons these days. You go worrying about someone else, bud, and don't listen what I'm trying to tell you, you're not going to get nowhere. So, yeah.
Now, I reckon there must be a little bit to that, though, because I remember when we played in Newcastle that year, we were leading the game. When we were out on, what were we on, field 2A, field 2 or 3, field 3 out the back there. One of my favourite games that we played in, we lost, but we were leading the game, and then you started coming back, and I remember you scored a try. Did he score the try, or did someone else score it?
I think Bundy scored it.
Set it
But
up.
you come back and you were going at us. You were saying, that's what you get. You want to talk on social media, eh? That's what you get.
No, I do.
Good rivalry.
I reckon
Good
you
rivalry.
carried something into it for that one.
No, because that's when you went off injured because he hit you. Remember, he hit you.
Yeah, and he pointed to Dad. My old man got me smashed.
Uncle Jake, and then
My old
we
man-
having words.
My old man give George cheek on the sideline or something, and George come in and come and whack me for it on
And
the
then
field.
Georgie turned around and he was pointing this at me. Yeah, I do remember that. I do.
It was a good game.
It was a good
I
game.
remember that you were
I
into
do remember.
us, and we were shattered too because we had the game.
Oh, 100%.
He's made a break. I think
Yeah.
a big Rowan playing for us, and
Yeah,
he
yeah.
passed,
Yeah,
he dropped the
Rowan,
ball,
yeah,
he made
yeah.
the break, and the game was over if he finds the pass. And he stuffed up the pass, and then we got a second chance late in the game to come back and score right at the
Yeah.
end. Yeah, I remember some good rivalries there.
That was a good
Our early days, we had a rivalry with Nambucca. Look, but the biggest rivalry for Narwhal was Moree, and he played a big part in this too, because the first time we came up against Moree as young fellas, and I was 15, and we played them out at Moree in the knockout out there. So Narwhal versus Moree, and it was huge at Moree, at the Moree knockout, and Dennis was in the ambulance by the end of the game, and Brian, they were our 2 young gun players, and we hit the lead and we had Moree beaten, but they put the boys in. Tell us about that game.
Oh, yeah, they just started playing dirty though, but that's knockout football for you, everyone does it, and it was.
We were filthy for a long time.
Yeah,
so
don't worry.
when we were kids, so I'm 15, Dennis is 17, my old man and Uncle Clary, Big Deck, they're all too old, right? So we had a team that was either too old, fellas on the wrong side of 40, or fellas that were still teenagers under 18s, and we were all in the same side together. Shannon played, all of them, Terry Foote, Gary Davis. We were all in high school. We were all still in high school, and we're playing with our fathers and our uncles. And the Rang side, they beat us, and it's the only time Moree Boomerangs has ever beaten Narwhal in the knockout. So they beat us over there, and we got raised. Uncle Bim used to tell us as kids, he goes, when you play for Narwhal, you don't ever let Moree beat you, because they're all our cousins. They're all our cousins over there. Our family are all over there, like Phil Duke and Buster Duke. They're our cousins over there. And Dad, everyone's close, But they got that rivalry. And then the other part is don't let Kempsey ever beat you. Like, you can't ever lose to Kempsey and you can't lose to Moree. So as kids, we grew up like, we don't ever let Kempsey beat us and we don't ever let Moree beat us. They're the two teams that Narwhal refuses to lose to. And even a couple of years ago, they had a Narwhal knockout up there, and the semi-finals, me and them were playing in two different teams up in Armidale, and one drew Moree and one Rangs and one drew Kempsey side, Bellbrook side and thing. And we just looked at each other and said, look, we'll play each other in the final, but we just don't let these two teams make the final. And we all played our best game in the semi-final, and when we made it against each other, everyone just had fun out on the field because it just don't, wherever they think. But that started then, and for us, like, that was our first time coming up against the Boomies, and like the Boomies had amazing teammates. Geez, they were a good football side. And, you know, Merv Ty was in that side. Trevor Ty, unbelievable player. We played a lot of footy against. Sunboy Peckham. Benny Roberts was in his prime back then. Christo Binge, like Wok Sampson. Just unbelievable players. Matty Munro. This is who we grew up watching. So they beat Narwhal, and then a couple of years later we play Boomies. We drew Boomies' second game of the knockout. And Dennis was
I was in Sydney.
He was in Sydney, and he wasn't going to make it to the knockout. This was the old Moree Boars. Remember I told you that yarn earlier about we drew the Moree Boars, and they forfeited to us on that late afternoon. So what it meant that was, we haven't had to put the team sheet in now. We could tomorrow, then you could play because we haven't played our first game. Yeah. So that Dennis drives he was at his Parramatta presentation that night, and he wasn't going to make the knockout. He wasn't going to play. And I rang him. I said, "Bros, we're drawing the Boomies tomorrow." Like,
nah, don't say that.
He tried to make out I'm scared of him.
Tell him what you really said now.
You
tell him what you really said.
You tell him what I reckon.
Baby. Making me choky. He rang up there when because we was at the presentation, and I'm sitting at our presentation with Parramatta. And I went, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Bro, we got ranks tomorrow." And I said, "Yeah, you know what? I can't come, but I said, I'm here at the presentation. I'm on it. Bro, these fellas here reckons they're going to kill me out of here."
They're going to try. They're going to try and kill me.
Christo's talking it up. I went, "Go away, you dickhead." He's going, "No, we got him, bro. We got him tomorrow. You got to come. You got to come." Anyway.
He drove all night.
Said to the missus, "I'm going."
And we wasn't sure whether he'd make it, because we played him early the next morning. So we wasn't sure if he'd make it or if he'd come because you couldn't.
What's that, a 6-hour drive, 7-hour drive?
And there was no mobiles back then, This was when there was no mobiles, so you couldn't ring him. So we just don't know if he's coming or not. And we were getting warmed up before the game. And in 95, when we played that first game at Moran, they put him in the hospital because a spear tackle it was. So he got speared and they had to check his neck, and Brian broke his collarbone in the same game. So our two best young players they put out of the game with legal tackles, we say. So Dennis was waiting. We were all waiting for him for years, and then we come up against him out there, and I remember him walking in the ground, and he just walked like that much determination. We could see it coming from miles away. Like, look at this fella, he's ready to kill someone. And he just walked in, grabbed his jersey, just stripped straight there, got his gear on, and he just said, "Boys, someone's going to the ambulance today." He goes, "Someone will be going to the ambulance today." He goes, "Last time we played there," and then everyone in that Narwhal team was like the whole community was there around the warm up, and it just erupted, and it was just like, holy geez, this team, like our team, you could feel we're just going out there to kill people. And the first hit of that knockout, Dennis ran on the field and he sang out to our fullback. He goes, kick it down there to point it to the front row. He said, "Kick it to him." And the front row seen Dennis point and said, "Yeah, kick it to me. Kick it to me. I'm coming straight at you." It was the biggest mistake he ever made. It's the biggest hit I've ever seen to knock out. Then sprinted down, and it was the biggest hit I felt, the whiplash in the neck. I heard the noise, and he virtually knocked him out. And it was the three biggest tackles. He went first one off the kickoff, biggest hit I'd seen at the knockout. The next one he smashed the next front row from marker, and then the third one he picked up someone and ran back like 10 metres with him. And I remember being on the defensive team, and I just seeing the whole air the spirit just went out of the whole Boomies team, and Narwhal ended up winning that game over by like 28 points. And they had a gun side, they had a brilliant side, and it's like they just gave up after that 3 tackles. They just went, "Holy jeez, this is something that we've never faced before." And that's when we sort of went on our journey to winning the knockout, because we made the semis. We made the semis that year, and then the next year we went back there with a 22-year-old coach, captain, and me vice captain, and sort of helping him coach at 20. We won the knockout with all kids.
Unbelievable. I
Yeah,
got
she was-
chills listening to that
yeah,
yarn.
it
That was
was-
a good yarn.
It was. No, it was an experience, Georgie, that's for sure. You know, it's always a memory that's always going to be there. You know, he always tells that I don't like to talk about it, but it's always a thing that we could, you know, look back on and try to encourage our kids, you know, as well to do the exact same thing. So,
Now, how many knockout wins have you had?
one with the Yowies or two with the Yowies. One or two, I don't know. And then three with Narwhal, four Narwhal.
3 with Narwhal, 1 with Yowies, yeah.
What
Yeah,
was your
so-
what was your most memorable one out of them?
Don't say Yowies because they'll kill you now.
No, my most memorable one is the 2008 one up at Tweedheads. You know, it was under the circumstances that happened. It really put a lot of what can I say? Spiritual back into our club. You know, we all come together up there, and we knew we had to come together. You know, there was a time when, you know, Alf's mother walked over, bud, and she asked us, what do we want to do? You know, because everyone said, oh, you don't have to play if you don't want. And I just said, no, that's not happening. We playing. We all playing. You know, regardless of what happened, we playing. Because it's all going to be for him, you know. And, yeah, that was, you know, I'm getting a chilly just thinking about it, you know.
It was a hard time too because you put the memorial sighting for your father that year.
Yeah.
So it was special for Dennis anyway, and he just come back from England. He hadn't played for Narwhal for a few years.
Yeah. So, no, it was, we tried to make it to bring a community back together, and because we had a bit of issues out there leading into it, you know, with players pulling out, and because we, you know, selection as they always do, and that, and then you know, we wanted to make sure that everyone got a decent run on that as well, and you know, people were bagging us about who we put in the team and that, and then then this happened. You know, actually, we got when we drew Minder River. No, was it Minder River? No, who we draw first up?
Newcastle Emus.
Yeah, and then
But we end up playing Minder River, and they
Minder had a good side there.
red hot side.
Yeah.
Walgett was the side we had an eye on. And someone else did us a favour. I think Waterloo did us a favour because we avoided you.
I thought that was one of our best years that we.
Yous were
I
looking
mean,
good.
around then because we hadn't won one.
Yeah.
That was one of our better years, and Waterloo got us with the field goal.
Yeah, that's right. Little pokey field goal because
Yeah.
you were the side we had that one eye on. You know, we were worried about. We didn't know a lot about Minder River back then, but
Nah,
they had
nah.
a gun side.
Yeah.
Because Cody was an unknown player back then. Ryan was just coming through, and Ryan was brilliant. They had the Robinson twins.
Yeah.
They had the
Jensen boys.
the young
Yeah,
boys.
yep.
They had the Jensen boys. They had a crew from Stevie Singleton and that from
Good
Cairns.
team.
They had a Gunton and Ronnie Griffiths and all them the Minder River boys that they have anyway. So, geez, they were a tough team. Kempsey put it to us, then.
Yep. That was a tough run for us up there that year. But, you know, the boys held their own, and, then that happened to us, which, really
It was hard
was
because
on the back foot.
I just remember it like, and with Big Alf he's our cousin and part of the Bellbrook mob up there for Armidale, and he'd been never played for Narwhal in the knockout when me and Den were sort of there for a while, and we never. It'd been a while since me and Dennis had played together in the knockout. So leading into that knockout, we were like pretty excited, you know, and then. When that happened with Alf, obviously it was hard to lose a player. You don't go to the knockout. I just remember thinking like you walk away from football injured and sore, but you don't expect that you're going to lose a brother playing in football game. In a football game, I just could not. And the emotions were that mixed because of it all. We all loved playing together again, and you have this, and it just broke the hearts of our community. Like I remember when we were walking off the field, and someone had said to us on the bench, he'd been revived, he's coming back around.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
when we think the boys were like, is Alf coming back? Are we going to go and see him? What is he all right? He's all right. He's all right. And I could see a policeman standing just as where we were walking because they were telling us walk over to the crowd, and I'd seen a policeman there, and I was like, that's not a good sign. Like, if a copper's coming there, and then I could see it was our cousin Cyril, who's a policeman, I could see he had tears in his eyes, and I was like, this isn't going to be good.
Yeah.
And then he told us that he'd passed, and like the whole team just shattered, bro? Like the boys just dropped, and the blokes in tears just on the thing, and then we sat around for ages, not knowing what to do.
Not knowing what our next move was, that's for sure.
How hard was it to make the decision to bounce back?
That's
and
the
keep
hardest
playing?
thing I've ever had to do, like with football, like to sit there and you're just in shock and you're broken because you just lost a player, and a lot of us were sort of like, oh, we're not playing, I can't play, I can't get my head around this, and it was just Den's leadership and when Alf's mother too, like, said, you boys have got to play for him and his son, who was there, young Preston was there watching, like you got to go out and play for them. And then once they said that, and Dennis said, well, come on boys, let's get up and get going, we went into this tent, and all the old Narwhal players like that we'd looked up to and our community like just come together in this tent, and we all just started talking, different people would talk.
Yeah, and bring a community back together. And as I said, we had our issues before the game, or leading into the knockout with selection and that, but that all just was put aside, and everyone just come together in that tent, and there was no way. Like, we didn't even have anything about losing nobody. Like it was, it was all about
once we made the
doing
decision,
it for his mother and for his young fella.
And then when we finished it, like I just remembered, like on that field, I felt like something was possessing me playing. And I just felt like I just had something that was just, you got to win, you drive, you don't. I just couldn't think of anything else but like make the tackle, make the run, get there, keep on. I was on like high adrenaline the whole game. And then when the game finished, I just remember that everything just drained out of me and the emotion and everything. And it just felt that empty and that tired and exhausted. And I remember I just had like crazy thoughts but it was just like one of the proudest things that I've ever done was to win that knockout for Alf, and the leadership and the strength like the Den showed and our community showed that day was something like that I'll always remember. That's what it's all about for me, is what we saw that day. Yeah. That's what the knockout should all be about.
No, exactly.
Wow. And then going from there, you obviously hosted it the next year. It was a great knockout again the year after.
And he never showed up. So, and this is probably one thing, like, and we got to talk about, I suppose, is like that no one, especially back then when Dan, he comes in and he drives a hard level, like it's because we grew up cherishing those jerseys, doing anything for those jerseys and training hard, seeing men train hard and push themselves so you can perform in that jersey and win. And we had that expectation, and Dan has that expectation on all the boys up there to do it. And then a lot of them sometimes wouldn't do it, And that's when everyone in the community would argue about the side. Like, it's the most argumentative team to go to a knockout. Even still today, they'll argue about the team, and it causes all sorts of dramas in the community because they're all so passionate. And we had a lot of people turn on us, Dan? Like our own cousins turn on us. And
then you can't do anything. Like, you go and say something to them and they just turn on you. They all turned on us.
So, bro, we went from that high of winning that knockout in 2008 to the next year, we got told that me and Dan wouldn't be part of the team. Like, Dennis wasn't going to be part of the team by people who didn't even play with us in 2008 but came in and run the Narwhal side the next year. And like we think, like I remember in 2008, but Narwhal, like our committee, they struggle hard, right, to do it. They got to run a team up there all year. But they didn't have shorts and socks. Dennis had to go and buy the shorts and socks before the game. They didn't have motels, So I had to go and get motels on the river and pay for, say, 5 or 6 of our players. Dan's paying for players to stay in motels because the club, they didn't have the resources and the things. So we sacrificed not only our bodies but also our money to put this team on the field.
Without the missus knowing.
Yeah, he wouldn't tell his missus all the money he spent over the years.
She won't be watching this either.
Yeah, she'll divorce him. Because Dennis would always put in his own pocket to pay for heaps of stuff for now and buy stuff, and he still does it today. And we had people the next year, and this is like, for me, this community, it sort of breaks your heart, was a fella from there rang me. He took over as president now and said that Dennis won't be in the side. I said, how can you not put Dan in the side? Like, this is a Narwhal side. This is a fellow who sacrificed everything. And that's when I just went, well, if he's out, I'm out. And then over the years, we both left Narwhal. and I don't know what the decision was like for you to go to the Yowies, but he didn't play the year after we won it. Our whole team had been split apart. Yeah. I came back from England and played, and yous won it. But the next year, Dennis turned his back on Naarm for the first time to go to Yowies. What was that like?
Yeah, it was hard because, I bleed blue and gold, I always said, I'm not going to go and play with anybody else, not going to do it. And then, with Uncle Barry being there and, Walker Navy and the, relatives and all that. And then my old fella, he went that way as well. Old Jerry, he decided to come a Yowie as well. And he just said, come over and play with these fellas because they're going to look after you. You don't have to stress. You don't have to worry, about if you got accommodation and all that, everything's all right. All you got to just turn up and play football. Mm. And so I just thought, well, this is what I'm going to do. And that's when we went to Bathurst. Out in Bathurst, and that was my first year out there with them.
No, you played with them in 2010 at Woi Woi.
Woi.
Oh, I did too.
Yes.
Yeah, no. I
remember that.
Oh, yeah,
we played them in the semis
that year.
Yeah.
Who just played in the semis?
You fellas.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, we went on to win it that year, right? Yeah.
I was just thinking, now I know. PJ and that, we had a bit of a run-in with PJ.
Yeah.
That's right.
Abe was playing.
You would have had a run-in. Him and Abe were headbutting.
Yeah.
That's right.
I never had no run-ins with Dan.
Now, come on, Trenny. You're the cheekiest player out there.
Nah, you know what?
You used to be smart with me all the time when you're out there.
Yeah, but you're right. Look, I've said it pretty quiet, but I'm in awe of Dan. Like, again, it's you're sitting there with knockout royalty, and to hear the stories and all that come up and that. And I think I remember one of my early years, I think I was only about 16 or 17, Dan tried to whack one of the boys we had with us at Redfern Oval, big fella from Wagga, what's his name?
Oh, Sagigi?
Nah, big curly-headed fella.
Oh, big Goolagong.
Wayne Goolagong. He tried to hit him off one of the kickoffs, and you were rattled, you were dazed. You was just sitting there like couldn't find your feet or nothing. And just me, probably that was my first. I knew about Dan before that, but just seeing the way he put his body on the line and all that stuff, I was like mad on this fella even more, and it was just don't have care for yourself, It's just, he was big, man.
I got a mad yarn.
The way he rattled Dan, I was just like,
I got a mad yarn that. So in that Raymond Terrace knockout, we played Kempsey a year later after the Yowies had won. So, and anyway, we played Kempsey and Dennis was out wide and he passed our winger and the Kempsey centre come flying in on him and hit him high, co-danged him, full knocked him out. He was knocked out and I ran over and I grabbed him, picked him up and I said, Bruz, and you could just say he's knocked out here. He was dizzy. Peter even ran on the field, Like his wife ran on the field because you could just see he's gone. He's absolutely gone, this fella. And I said to Dan, bro, you knocked out, bro. You got to go off. And he just looked at me with his eyes wobbling and he just goes, fuck off. I'm staying on the field. And that's what he said to me. He just goes, fuck off. I'm staying on the field. So we go, all right, it's a scrum. And I remember Clash was a halfback, but Clary put Dennis to 5'8". And Dennis, instead of defending, we had the ball. Dennis ran over and stood in front of the 5'8" for Kempsey, only a metre in front of him, and stood there like he was marking him in defence. While the scrum's getting ready. And the ref goes, mate, he's not, he's out. He's out to it. Get him off the field. He didn't know where he was. He was standing opposite the 5'8", like he was marking him, ready to tackle him. And I was like, Bruz, you got to go off the field. You got to go off the field. So you know what Clary does? Clary then just gives the ball to Dennis and goes, here, you feed the scrum while he's still knocked out. And he stuffs up the first scrum like this, feeds it wrong, and I was lucky the ref blows it back. But then 2 plays later, he scores a try under the post to win the game. He grubs it and scores a try. And Brad Cook talked about it in the coverage. He goes, he was knocked out just a minute ago, and here he comes up with this winning try and then the winning tackle. Oh, not a big tackle. He saved a try down the sideline a couple of minutes later too. But that was what Trenny's saying, just body on the line all the time, always ready to throw the body on the line. It's a good old story.
I love that. You'd have to be one of the most respected knockout players getting around, that's for sure. Are you running around this year?
I'm just...
Or
trying to put a side together, Georgie. You know, I did order 28 jerseys, so we'll just wait and see.
wait and see how many numbers.
How many numbers we get, Trenny? That's it. We'll just see how many numbers we get.
So you've come up against some great players, great teams over the years. Who's been some of your toughest opposition?
Well, geez, I always say this and not a lot of people really get the opportunity to play against him. Old Don Walker, you know, when we played Mully one year, and he's just hard as rock. You know, you play against Sunboy, Peckham and all that, and, you know, like they're just big, strong fellas that run hard, but he was just stubborn, this fella. Like, he just would not give in. And then there was another one, and it was John Kelly. When the jail team, when they put a side in.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I said, we're going to have to fucking whack this fella, you know, like, he's just dominating. Do you remember that game?
Johnny Kelly. I was young. I was watching
down at Eve at Newtown
at Erskineville Oval.
Erskineville Oval, yeah. And then he was just running at us and just running over the top. And they had this real
jail. They were all jail fit.
Yeah, they were all jail fit. He was rock solid. But I thought I'm gonna have to try and lay a shot on him, eh? But it was like hitting a brick wall. Jeez, he was hard. But Don Walker, for me, would have been the hardest fella to play against because he was just so stubborn and he just would not give in, you know, and he was always just get up and keep going, just keep going. Give me the ball, I'll take it up. You know, a bit like yourself, Trenny and Dino and that, and yourself, Georgie, you know, like just stubborn, you know, but he was a hard man to play against, yeah.
You talked a little bit about that jail team, and we brought it up a couple of times on this show. What was it like to actually play against them? The experience to play against them, because
it wasn't too bad, but we had a young side too. Like, we had a young side, and I remember they were in front, right? They were in front, and then we ended up scoring, and our goal kicker Gary Davison was kicking the goal from in front, right? And he was listening to these fellas behind when they were in the in goal, right? And they're listening to him. After he kicked the goal, he come back and he goes, boys, let's just kick it back to him, because they just said to us, look, boys, we're going back to jail anyway. Let's just give it to him. he was wet. He little ducked me. And when he said that, oh, jeez, it made us laugh. But it was played against them. They just didn't care. It was good, Dave. But when he said that to me, boys, kick it back to him.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it was funny, Jose. But no, it was they were tough, though. But yeah, they couldn't host a knockout.
Yeah.
You know, it was a good game.
No, they got a few fields up there at Hunter. I was up there the other day. They got some good fields.
Get in there, get back in.
No crowd.
So we used to, like, when we look at the sides that we played over years, and I always feel this, like, Nambucca was a side that taught us a lot of lessons, especially Brett Davis and Paulie. And then we feel that Walgett sort of took it away from us, you know what I mean? Like, so we were the team in between the great Nambucca side, and Narwhal had a little few years there of winning a few knockouts, 3 knockouts, and then Walgett sort of was the ones who come in after us, and you've been dominant you've had 2 sort of cracks at it, you know. You've had a dominant period there and then a little bit of a break and then come back now with it all. So I remember the lesson we learned from Brett Davis out there in the semi-final one year.
Yeah.
His kicking game and his control, him and Gary Jarrett, we were a side that played on adrenaline and toughness now. And we thought that would get you all the way through the knockout. So we come out in the semi-final and just went 100 miles an hour, and then he just slowed the game down. He kicked for corners, took for 2. They were shot for 2 points when we weren't. We were trying to score at every chance, and we forced our excitement because the game was longer as fatigue set in. We were coming up with more mistakes. We're trying to play 100 miles an hour. And we learnt that style of a little bit of a thing there. The old fella sort of set us down and say, you got to learn it's different on the Monday. And we learnt that lesson off Nambucca or Brett.
Yeah, no, that game against them, he slowed it right down. You know, that really taught us,
The next year we went back there and we won like for the first time. It was like, because for years we couldn't quite crack it to the Monday.
Yeah.
And then when we finally did, we had the same adrenaline and excitement. And they taught us that lesson in that semi-final because they were old, like, and we were the young team on the up and coming. So we thought that we'd beat them easy because they weren't the side that they used to be, but they won that knockout through control and patience. And they taught us, like, when you get to the Monday, it's a different style of football.
Different style, 100%.
It's only 10 minutes, but it's long.
It's a long
very
10
long
minutes,
on that
all right.
Monday, you know. And like you said, once you start slowing it down that little bit, it just changes the dynamics massively.
Yeah.
Like the fatigue, that sets in, like that's when it hits you on the Monday because you're all adrenaline Sunday and let's just push ourselves through the last game to get there and it's still fast paced and then you get to the Monday and it all hits you, the soreness, the tiredness, the fatigue and then sort of re-going again from the third day.
Yeah.
So you got to be able to pull the game right back and slow it down. We learnt that from Brett and that Nambucca team.
Who's the teams you like watching now?
I don't really stand around to watch anymore.
He don't like no one. I told you he doesn't like
It was a trick question. I want to see if you like anyone.
Hey, no, I'd pretty much go home after the game, but I should stay around, should hang around and watch it with all these young fellas that's coming through. I think, what's that young fella you fellas had last year? The little
Trell?
Yeah, not Trell, the other young kid.
Chrissy Woodbridge.
Oh, he killed in the grand final.
Fast.
Unbelievable.
Hey, he's I enjoyed watching him in that final actually.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching him because he's let him do what he wanted to do, and him and Trell.
Yeah.
Just let them do what they wanted to do, and mate, that's what our people is about.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing about Chrissy is he come into, so he was in the 25. He wasn't in the starting 13 to start off. Was it Benny or Matt got injured early?
Matt.
I think Matt got injured early, and he comes straight into 5'8". He played the full knockout at 5'8". And so he was just starting off the bench. He was actually going to be an outside back.
Yeah.
Played the full knockout at 5'8", led the team around well, and then them game-breaking moments that he had in the final.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, unbelievable. And he just got picked in the Queensland countryside too. Congratulations, Chrissy Woodbridge. Well done.
Nice. Well done. But yeah, he was the outstanding last year. He was definitely the outstanding for me to sit down and watch. If I was going to sit down and watch, he would have been the one that I'd want to sit down and watch.
Something that was awesome about it too was Benny Barber probably put him in on them positions as well. Benny controlled it, steered it, and then he knew when to hit Chrissy. I think that's how they scored that first try too in the grand final.
Yeah,
Benny put that little chip through for him and but that's an age-old thing, you can't beat speed and he's got tons of it. And, that's exciting watching players like that. Even all the teams I don't like that obviously isn't whack, but if they got speed in there, you just see them doing stuff, you're like, far out, how cool is that?
I like that young fellow, where was it, down in Nara, when the knockout was down there and he chipped with his right foot, regathered, and chipped with his left foot, regathered and scored.
Yeah, young fella.
You can't teach
that.
that.
That was amazing.
That's who he reminded me of, that young fella that you said, he was good to watch.
Yeah.
Really good.
Who have we got to keep our eye on then for now, and any young fellas coming through to keep our eye on?
Well, Dennis's boys.
Yeah, look, my young fella's out there. He's an aggressive young fella. He's a bit like myself, stupid in the head. So
He played with Penrith, bud.
That's my oldest fella. He's in the flag there. And then we got the under 15s coming through as well. So we've got a couple of young boys that are up home as well that that's going really well. They're playing in the local competition, and it's a bit hard for our boys when even the local competition isn't really competitive.
They haven't got strong football in the bush.
It's a hard thing about country footy.
Yeah, it makes it really hard, especially when you do come to the knockouts and, we come up against the good sides, with the NRL experience as well. It makes it a lot harder for our boys and that. But, as I always say to them, who gives a F who they are? They just go out and do it. I don't want to swear on you. But it's the attitude you got to turn up to play with. If you turn up in the attitude you're going to get beat, well, then you will get beat.
Yeah.
turn up with an attitude, you know, go out there and just give it back to them. So,
And what can we expect from Narwhal this year? I know Narwhal's entered in the knockout again.
Yeah, look, as I said, brother, we got it's a very young team at the moment. Most of the boys are only 18. I think the oldest fellas in there will be about, how old's Fletch, 30?
How old are you?
You're the oldest.
Oh,
man.
me, yeah, mate.
No one's older than you in the
Mate,
team.
21.
No one's older than you.
No one's older.
Grandfather of the
Nah, but Fletcher would be the oldest that's, you know, there at the moment. Or is it? No, I was Liam.
No, they're about the same age.
About the same
Fletcher.
age. So the boys, a young side. You know, we're going back like we did a couple of, you know, back when we were in our prime and that, and got the older fellas and the younger fellas sort of, you know, mixing in again. So it'll be
Deja
interesting
vu.
to see we go. Yeah, well, that's what it is. But you know, we need some leadership in there as well. So you know, a bit of guidance. That's where
There it is. Dennis said, Narwhal's back.
we're back, brother. We're
Dennis
always
is back. Dennis is
Play.
back.
Dennis will play. He'll be there playing.
No, well, it's been a pleasure to have you on here and listen to some of the great Narwhal and Armidale yarns over the year. You are definitely two of the most respected players in knockout history. I think everything that you've done and achieved, a lot of people look up to you and appreciate what you do. So I do appreciate you sharing some of the insights of what made you who you are too, because I think that's something for young kids to take note of and listen to his attitude that he has that made him the player that he is and made everybody else around him the players that they are too. I mean, they all contributed their own things, but, you know, that attitude really, yeah, I think that's something for all the young kids to pay attention to. But thanks for coming on and hopefully get you on again soon. Yeah, hopefully see how you go at the knockout. Good luck in the knockout. Hope no one's in the mix again. I do love watching us play, and we'll see you there at the knockout in Bathurst. And thanks for coming on.
no worries, brother. Thanks for having us.
All right, that's another Koori Knockout podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you do all the right things, like, subscribe, and share all of our stuff.